He hurriedly said, "Master Li, Miss Bai, both of you please be assured. I found out that you're entering the city today from the clan leader from the Lung family. Lung family wanted to take action against Master Li, so he asked me to help bribe the city guards to capture you. But he was instead lectured by me. For a genius like Master Li to be offended, how could you not exact revenge for it?" Saying that, Feng Boizhong changed the topic. "But, Lung family's people have apparently not given up. Perhaps they might find other ways to deal with Master Li. But Master Li, please be assured, we the Feng family definitely can deter the other top 10 clans. As long as Master Li is willing to join us, we can help to settle the Lung family's trouble." He said this with an impressive style. But actually, the meaning in his words had a threatening effect in it. What he meant was actually to hint Li Moying that he was already being forced into a corner. If he wanted to avoid Lung family from exacting revenge, then the only way was to join Feng family, otherwise Feng family would not bother about this matter. This move was well executed, and if they really didn't know the current situation which Sky Emperor City was in, they might really have fallen for his lies. Huang Yueli didn't know if she should laugh or cry, but she finally understood that it was Kui Yuan Shan who had sold Li Moying's matters out. Seeing her own fiancé already showing an apparent impatient look, she hurriedly opened her mouth. "Clan leader Feng, we..." Suddenly, while she was still speaking, she was interrupted by someone. "Old man Feng, you're a reputable clan leader, and instead of staying at home, why have you run out to the city gate so early in the morning? Just what are you trying to do?" Following that, a burst of laughs echoed as a silhouette appeared at the entrance of Sky Emperor City. The person was dressed in a navy blue long robe, looking around 40+ years of age, and there were 2 blades of moustache on top of his lips, bearing the temperament of a scholar. But the profound energy fluctuations coming from him clearly told them that he was a genuine 9th stage realm 8 level practitioner. In terms of cultivation, he was above Feng Boizhong's. The minute he appeared, the surrounding practitioners couldn't help but started to gasp in exasperation again. "That's Cheng Zhenbo, Vice President of Soaring Heavens Merchant Guild's Cheng Zhenbo. He is a famous character in Sky Emperor City's sky chart. Usually it's practically impossible to see him. Why had he appeared right here today?" "So he's Cheng Zhenbo. I heard that other than the few who are in 9th stage realm peak, he's the next in line who's most powerful. Not only that, he has the huge backing of Soaring Heavens Merchant Guild and has easy access to profound weapons and medicinal pill. In terms of battle power, he's absolutely top-rated. I'd not expected that we would be able to see this legendary character today. What is he here for?" Everyone had a puzzled look on their faces. Or perhaps, they already had a faint guess in their hearts, but they weren't willing to believe that such a thing could happen. When Feng Boizhong saw Cheng Zhenbo appearing, his expression changed and it immediately turned extremely anxious and uptight. "President Cheng, these words of yours sound strange. I can be anywhere that I want to, so why can't I be right here at the city gates? How about you? Haven't I heard a few days ago that you're going into closed-door cultivation at home and not going to meet anyone? Why have you suddenly appeared right here? Could it be that you've already come out of closed-door cultivation so quickly?" Feng Zhongbo's enmity was extremely obvious. Cheng Zhenbo saw that but merely cracked open his lips a little as he replied in ridicule, "Clan leader Feng's question is so interesting. I'm here for the same motive that you have as well. You can also listen on." This really was whatever was feared would happen. Feng Boizhong's heart thumped wildly for a moment, not expecting that the news of the peerless genius entering Sky Emperor City would spread so fast. Even Soaring Heavens Merchant Guild rushed over. Originally he thought upon hearing this news from Lung family, and even bribing the city gate guards was absolutely the fastest and would definitely be able to lay hands onto Li Moying before everyone else. In the end, the development of things happened in the opposite direction of what he had expected. Li Moying was totally not easy to trick, as he totally disregarded everything that he had said. And now, precisely because he was delayed for a slight moment, even Cheng Zhenbo managed to reach in time. Soaring Heavens Merchant Guild, which backed Cheng Zhenbo, was a famous and reputable large powerhouse in Soaring Heavens continent. Although they were not part of the 7 sacred lands, but their forces in terms of retail outlets, auction houses, and business transactions firms spread throughout the entire Soaring Heavens continent, welding a shockingly vast amount of fortune. Although Soaring Heavens Merchant Guild didn't have that kind of 10,000-year-old inheritances from those large sects or large clans, but as long as they had money in their hands, there was always a way to get cultivation methods and resources, not to mention a vast amount of intelligence network. All these were something which the Feng family weren't able to match up against. On seeing Cheng Zhenbo appearing, Feng Boizhong knew that things were going to be troublesome. Indeed, Cheng Zhenbo shot a provocative glance towards Feng Boizhong and turned towards Li Moying. While sizing him up for a short moment, a sense of admiration flowed within his eyes. "Master Li, I've been looking forward to meeting you for a long time. You're indeed a man of striking appearance, truly living up to one's reputation." Even if it was Sovereign from Blue Profound Sect then, he unfortunately wasn't able to match up to you now. This was the highest compliment. Blue Profound Sect's Sovereign Mu was exactly Mu Chengying himself. If it was any other ordinary practitioner, upon hearing such compliments, they would not be overly excited but rather shocked overboard. To be compared to Mu Chengying. If their innate talent wasn't enough yet being raised to such a high platform, it was simply akin to shortening their lifespan. But Li Moying didn't reveal any excitement nor shock, merely narrowing his eyes as he said softly, "President Cheng, you've overpraised me." Huang Yueli threw a gaze towards him and knew what exactly he was thinking. Cheng Zhenbo actually used Mu Chengying as a topic. Although what he said was indeed the truth, but if it was 15 years ago, no practitioners in the entire Soaring Heavens continent would dare to treat Mu Chengying with any kind of disrespect. Not to mention having the rights to even use him as a topic. But Mu Chengying had disappeared into closed-door cultivation for 15 years, and all those astonishing things that he had done then had long been forgotten by most people. Otherwise in the yesteryears, even if Cheng Zhenbo wanted to die to say such things, no surrounding practitioners around him would have the guts to listen to him talk. Thinking of this, Huang Yueli's lips uncontrollably curled a little. No matter what, the big demon lord had already returned to his kingdom, and moreover his innate talent was much higher than before. She wondered if those large powerhouses which were ready to make trouble found out about this, would they be shocked to death? Cheng Zhenbo didn't realize that something was amiss as he continued speaking. "Master Li, let me introduce myself. I'm Cheng Zhenbo. I'm guessing that you must have heard of my name before. The wealth of Soaring Heavens Merchant Guild is something which I imagine that I shouldn't need to explain further. We are not lacking in money, nor resources. As long as you're willing to join Soaring Heavens Merchant Guild, we will definitely utilize the entire guild's power to provide you for cultivation. No matter what kind of condition you raise, how many medicinal pills, spirit stones, profound weapons, cultivation methods, we will be able to satisfy you." Soaring Heavens Merchant Guild had wealth which spoke louder than others, and just this opening from Cheng Zhenbo had immediately turned Feng Boizhong into dregs. "You can also listen on." Feng Boizhong only mentioned about giving Li Moying the utmost top-rate genius treatment, but Soaring Heavens Merchant Guild was different. The minute they opened their mouth, it was to fulfill whatever demands he had, appearing relatively superior as compared to anyone else. Not only that, when Cheng Zhenbo swept one glance at Feng Boizhong once again, he continued, "Furthermore, no matter what problems does Master Li have in Sky Emperor City with whichever forces, we will be able to resolve it. I just heard that Master Li seemed to have accidentally killed some direct descendant of the Lung family. This is just a small matter which could be appeased with money, so Master Li need not worry about this." When Feng Boizhong heard that, he almost coughed out a mouthful of blood. Earlier, in order to make Li Moying feel grateful towards him, he intentionally made the Lung family sound as though they were very incredible, as though settling this matter was a difficult task. In the end, this Cheng Zhenbo actually made this sound so simple, as though it could be settled with just a wave of a hand. In this way, under comparison, didn't it mean that his Feng family was much worse off than the Soaring Heavens Merchant Guild? A matter which they found it difficult to settle, to Soaring Heavens Merchant Guild, was just a small matter which wasn't even fit to be mentioned about. This was simply trying to be clever but ended up with egg on his own face. Feng Boizhong felt extremely furious and immediately stood up as he stared angrily at Cheng Zhenbo. "President Cheng, this is just too much. Everything should be done in order of arrival. Master Li is the person whom we Feng family had taken interest in, and you suddenly popped out like that. What's the meaning of this? Poaching someone from other sects publicly is the disruption of the society regulations. No matter how much wealth your Soaring Heavens Merchant Guild has, surely you can't be that unreasonable, right? Whoever knew that Cheng Zhenbo couldn't even be bothered to look at him straight in the eyes as he continued to persuade Li Moying. Master Li, how is it? Do take a moment to consider this. You should be very clear that based on your innate talent, it was a sure thing that your existence in Sky Emperor City is definitely top-rated. But in order to speed up your cultivation even quickly, the amount of money that you need to burn would be much more. Even if it was a powerhouse like the top 10 clans, they aren't able to come out with so much money. Only we, Soaring Heavens Merchant Guild, have this ability. Feng Bozhong blew his mustache with his eyes wide open as he really wished that he could send this Cheng Zhenbo who had cut right in, a flying kick. Alas, he could only blame himself for not being fast enough and for not showing enough sincerity, even thinking of using the least price to trick Li Moying into joining their family. With the comparison right now, even an idiot would know that he would choose to join Soaring Heavens Merchant Guild. Li Moying listened to Cheng Zhenbo finishing his words expressionlessly before he started to open his mouth calmly. I thank both of you for thinking highly of me, but as what my fiancé had mentioned earlier, we have no intention to lean towards any powerhouse for now, my apologies. Cheng Zhenbo's expression stiffened, apparently not expecting that he had actually been rejected. This young lad really didn't know what he was rejecting. Feng Bozhong, however, heaved a sigh of relief as he almost laughed out. So what if Soaring Heavens Merchant Guild was rich and overbearing? Weren't they also unable to settle this matter? Cheng Zhenbo did not give up as he continued, Master Li, don't come to a conclusion so quickly. How about this? I'll invite you over to our guild's treasure pavilion to take a look. You can decide after you've. As Cheng Zhenbo was endlessly trying to persuade him, suddenly, they heard gasps of exclamations coming from the crowd. Quickly look. What's that? Quite a number of people heard that and looked over, and immediately following that, they all started screaming in shock. Heavens, that's that splendid Violet Heavenly Palace's flying ship. It's no wonder they're one of the 7 sacred lands in Sky Emperor City. Only a super powerhouse like this could steer their flying ship in the Sky Emperor City's skies so arrogantly. Strange. From the direction of that flying ship, it seemed to be flying towards our direction. You can also listen on. Under the astonished gazes of the crowd, that huge and luxurious flying ship flew above everyone's heads. The flying ship lowered slightly and a silhouette flew downwards, landing right in front of Li Moying. The man had a head full of white hair and he was holding on to a walking stick in his hands as though he was so old that he almost couldn't walk. But when Cheng Zhenbo and Feng Bozhong saw him, their expressions changed and bowed slightly as they cried out, Elder Guo. Even Li Moying and Huang Yueli were astonished. Because this Elder Guo's name was Guo Zhenqing, someone whom the both of them knew. 15 years ago, he was already one of the famous 9th stage realm peak practitioners from splendid Violent Heavenly Palace. This old man's character was extremely arrogant and they had not expected that he appeared at this place. Could it be that he was here to recruit Li Moying as well? Li Moying and Huang Yueli exchanged glances as they both had the same helpless thought in their minds. Originally they were thinking of sneaking into the city to grasp the situation of Sky Emperor City first. Whoever knew that? They had just entered the city and had thoroughly become famous. This was what's known as causing a sensation in the martial arts circle, startling a great number of people. Among the crowd, there were apparently even more people who recognized Guo Zhenqing as their discussions became even louder. Furthermore, even more people now looked at Li Moying as though they were looking at a monster. Elder Guo from splendid Violent Heavenly Palace. Soaring Heavens Continent Sky Chart ranking number 12. This is one of the top exponents behind the scenes in Sky Emperor City who wouldn't reveal himself easily. He actually came here as well. Surely it can't be that. He's also here to recruit that what Master Li, right? Surely not, right? Impossible, right? Elder Guo's backing is one of the 7 sacred lands splendid Violet Heavenly Palace. 7 sacred lands. Just what kind of place is that? Even if it was a peerless genius with 9th grade talent, he also had to pass through various assessments like ordinary practitioners before he could join them. Unless this Master Li is a 9th grade upper talented genius. What kind of joke is that? Can you even believe the things that you said? Ninth grade upper talents genius. In the past 100 years, there were only two, Mu Chengying and Huang Yueli. But, earlier when that President Cheng praised Master Li, he seemed to have mentioned that his innate talent was comparable to Sovereign Mu. What? How is that possible? Anyway, I'm not going to believe in that. Elder Guo must have another motive in his trip here. Splendid Violet Heavenly Palace had never actively recruited any genius before. The crowd refused to believe, which was understandable. 7 sacred lands were different from ordinary large powerhouses. All of them, without any exception, had ancient inheritances, and the number of top exponents under their wings had accumulated since 10,000 years ago. Just a mere immature genius was commonly seen, so how would they even treat him as something? Plus the 7 sacred lands sang their own praises of their statuses, they wouldn't possibly lower their heads to go beg anyone. Not to mention Li Moying, who was just a newbie who had just entered Sky Emperor City. However, different from the surrounding ordinary practitioners, Cheng Zhenbo and Feng Boizhong were silently anxious because they were very sure that Guo Zhenqing's motive was 99% the same as theirs. Those so-called peerless geniuses, in Splendid Violet Heavenly Palace's eyes, were indeed just like that. But Li Moying was different. Just 20 over years old and had already broken through the 9th stage realm stage. Just what kind of innate talent was that? It was a shocking piece of news, which made one frightened to even think carefully along this line. That year when Mu Chengying broke through to the 9th stage realm, he was almost nearing 30 years old, and that had already caused a huge commotion throughout the entire Soaring Heavens continent. You can also listen on. But Li Moying was much faster than Mu Chengying by such a large margin, completely leaping upwards in one shot. It was imaginable that it would take at most 5 to 6 years for him to promote into 9th stage realm peak, perhaps even surpassing the once number 1 top exponent Mu Chengying. After some time, what would his achievements be? Would he become the first practitioner to break through the 10th stage realm and ascend to God realm, after so many years since the fast change of heaven and earth during ancient times? This kind of genius had already surpassed everyone's imagination, and in front of him, even the 7 sacred lands weren't able to sit still. Feng Boizhong and the others felt the anger within, but they didn't dare to say it. 7 sacred land statuses were very high in Sky Emperor City, and the strength of their ability was something which the people outside the city could hardly imagine, hence he was someone whom the both of them could not afford to offend. Moreover, since Splendid Violet Heavenly Palace's people were here, they would definitely have no chance anymore, so they could only watch with their eyes open as Guo Zhenqing abduct them away. Guo Zhenqing was a man who was even more particular than Feng Zhenbo and the others, hence, he didn't personally go up to fawn on Li Moying, instead he brought along 2 sidekicks. A young man behind him took quick steps up ahead as he cupped his fist into the other hand and said, "Master Li, I am Wen Yikai, a direct disciple from Splendid Violet Heavenly Palace." He paused for a moment, waiting for Li Moying to express a shocked and adoration look. Whoever knew that the crowd around them were already gasping in shock and astonishment, but Li Moying merely casted him a look which was cold and distant, not knowing if he had heard what he said or not. Wen Yikai's expression turned slightly ugly as he had not expected that Li Moying to actually be that conceited. No matter how strong Li Moying's innate talent was, but he was after all a direct disciple of Splendid Violet Heavenly Palace. In the future, when Li Moying joined their Heavenly Palace, he was considered as his senior brother. How could he not give him face in such a manner? Wen Yikai was infuriated, but he remembered that he was acting on Guo Zhenqing's instructions, to treat this peerless genius with extreme deferential treatment, hence he forcibly controlled his own temper and continued to speak to him in a pleasant countenance. "Master Li, my master had passed by today and heard about your matter. He had always been interested in young men with great innate talent and wanted to have a chat with you, so I'd like to trouble you to come over with me to meet him." Splendid Violet Heavenly Palace sung their own praises of their statuses, so the words which they say out were unlike Soaring Heaven's Merchant Guild to be so mercenary, outright, and straight. They had not even said anything about recruiting Li Moying under their wing. But whoever present would have understood that this was Splendid Violet Heavenly Palace's way of expressing their good intentions towards Li Moying. For a moment, everyone was filled with envy. Heavens! Elder Guo had really come for this Master Li. To make splendid Violet Heavenly Palace's elder come over to recruit him personally. Just what backing does this man have? Don't know, I really don't know. This is the first time I've seen this man appearing in Sky Emperor City. If he was some old man in Sky Emperor City, he wouldn't absolutely be some intricate nameless youngster which no one could recognize. So today must be the first day that he had entered the city. First day entering the city, and he already attracted splendid Violet Heavenly Palace's attention. Just what kind of innate talent does he have? Really, when one is compared to another, one would die from it. Great innate talent, and able to join one of the 7 sacred lands, this Master Li's future is limitless. When Ikai heard these discussions, he somehow felt slightly imbalanced inside. Speaking of that, he himself had 9th grade lower innate talent, and that year, he had begged shamelessly, passing several rounds of assessments before he was able to formally become a disciple to Guozhenqing as his master. But now Guozhenqing actually came over personally to take Li Moying as his disciple. This young lad looked very young, with his hair not fully grown yet. You can also listen on. Other than being exceptionally good-looking, which would make any ladies who saw him going weak in the knee, there didn't seem any other exceptional part about him. Could he really be more powerful than himself? When Ikai silently decided that in future, after Li Moying became his junior brother, he would take good care of him, to let this fellow know just how deep the concrete details of splendid Violet Heavenly Palace was, and that he wasn't the only genius there. When Ikai was planning these in his mind, but by surprise, he suddenly heard Li Moying's cold and distant voice ringing from above his head. Master Wen, I appreciate your master's kind intentions, but I have no interest to meet with him. Please leave. When Ikai went into a blank. What did you say? He simply felt that he must have heard wrongly, because this matter should absolutely not have happened. An elder from one of the 7 sacred lands came here personally and even sent his beloved disciple under his wing to introduce themselves. To any young men in Sky Emperor City, it was an utmost glory. Even if the recipient was a 9th grade talented genius, that person should regard it as an honor and immediately run over to fawn on them with jolting buttocks. When Ikai had not expected that there would be anyone who would reject the meeting, Li Moying's gaze brushed past Feng Boizhong and the others, and he calmly replied, "We've delayed our journey for quite some time, and I understand all your intentions, but I've also made things very clear. I will not lean towards any of your forces." When Ikai heard what he said, he suddenly came to realize the truth. It really wasn't him having any hallucination, but this so-called peerless genius had water in his brain, otherwise he was really crazy. Do you know what you're saying? Did you think splendid Violet Heavenly Palace can be compared to the Feng family, that kind of small powerhouse? This is one of the 7 sacred lands. Do you know just how many elders in the 9th stage realm do we splendid Violet Heavenly Palace have? How many ancient historical inheritances that we have? How many exclusive cultivation resources? When Ikai raised his voice, he felt that if Li Moying didn't had any issue with his head, then he must be a country bumpkin who had just entered the city and wasn't sure of what's going on, to actually put splendid Violet Heavenly Palace together on the same level as Feng family, that kind of force. However, even after he exhausted his shouting to advertise, Li Moying still wasn't moved at all as his brows rose. So what about that? When Ikai's eyes turned wide, so what about that? Do you know that is the opportunity which so many practitioners had dreamt of? Li Moying replied indifferently, "Splendid Violet Heavenly Palace is indeed extraordinary, but it doesn't suit me. I can only apologize as a reply." Saying that, he held Huang Yueli's hand in his and calmly replied, "Goodbye," as he prepared to leave. Everyone had an extremely astonished gaze as they stared fixedly at his silhouette, watching as he carefully held his fiancée and brought her into his arms, evading the crowd. No one dared to believe that Li Moying had really rejected the good intentions from splendid Violet Heavenly Palace. Even though Guozhenqing was just standing not too far away, he did not even head over immediately to meet him. Wasn't this just a little too arrogant? Not even placing a 9th stage realm peak top practitioner, who did he thought he was? What kind of status did Elder Guo had, for him to treat him with such disdain? Under his rage, he might even just kill him with one strike. As expected, the crowd's mind had just flashed by this thought when they saw Guozhenqing's figure moving. A blurry bright silhouette flashed past and he immediately stopped Li Moying in his tracks. "Lad, you're indeed bold. Do you know who I am?" Guo Zhenqing's face was filled with wrinkles but his eyes were exceptionally bright with an imposing glint. "You can also listen on." Just as Guo Zhenqing was talking, he silently unleashed the profound energy within his body. Strong suppression enveloped the entire region. Fart, fart, fart. The weaker practitioners around them had immediately thrown up blood and fainted. Li Moying's expression remained indifferent as though he had not suffered much suppression. The influence on one's profound energy suppression was first determined on one's cultivation and then followed by the intensity of their meridians. The more stable the foundation and more tenacious it was in talented practitioners, the more they were able to take the suppression from practitioners who were of higher cultivations than them. Based on Li Moying's current God-grade innate talent, even if a powerful practitioner from God realm descended, it would be difficult to use suppression to cause him any harm. Moreover, Guo Zhenqing was just a 9th stage realm peak practitioner. The number of practitioners who were throwing up blood around them were increasing and quite a number of them could not withstand the suppression from such a peerless top exponent, hence they had all fallen onto the ground twitching as they foamed at the mouth. If it was any other sect's forces, on seeing so many practitioners around them being affected, in order not to cause too much of a chaos, they would definitely have stopped by now. However, Guo Zhenqing didn't even bother to cast a look at those weak ones as he had once again increased the degree of his profound energy, directly casting towards Li Moying's direction. The life and death of those weak surrounding them was of no concern to him at all. 7 sacred lands. Was just this overbearing and conceited? Li Moying's expression met Guo Zhenqing's vision coldly. He knew for sure that Guo Zhenqing would make a move to test him. Part of the reason was because he couldn't accept Li Moying's rejection, whereas on the other hand, which was the more important reason, it was definitely to test his potential. After all, that rumor regarding Li Moying's innate talent was just too ridiculous. Unless he witnessed it with his own eyes, otherwise anyone would have their suspicions. Li Moying narrowed his eyes slightly as numerous thoughts flashed past his mind swiftly. If he were to exhibit his potential right here now, it was possible that Guo Zhenqing would not be willing to let him off even more so. But if he had to pretend to not go up against him and lose in a sorry state, even if it was just a pretense, based on his conceited pride, it was totally unacceptable. While Li Moying was thinking it through, Guo Zhenqing had increased his profound energy suppression by another notch. Even a 9th stage realm practitioner like Feng Guozhong found it hard to sit or stand still. Just at this moment, Guo Zhenqing suddenly let out an exclamation as his vision shifted from Li Moying to his side. Li Moying's heart jolted as he turned around to look at Huang Yueli. He saw this young lass having a slightly pale expression, but she was still standing firm on the ground, totally not falling down or throwing up blood. This young lady. Guo Zhenqing suddenly opened his mouth. If Huang Yueli was a 9th stage realm practitioner, this expression could only be said to be just passable, and not attract Guo Zhenqing's attention. However, the profound energy fluctuations from her apparently meant that she only had a mere 5th stage realm later stage cultivation. Honestly speaking, based on her age, to be in the 5th stage realm already wasn't bad at all, but just based on cultivation alone, in Sky Emperor City, she was only considered to be middle class and below. The surrounding practitioners who had the same cultivation level as her had all fallen down twitching and fainted. But although she was in the center of suppression, she still remained standing properly. This innate talent was indeed shocking, probably not too far off from the man standing next to her. When Li Moying saw Guo Zhenqing's bright eyes, his heart silently sighed. This round things weren't going so well. No matter if he moved or not, none of them were going to be able to leave. You can also listen on. Li Moying took a side step and blocked himself in front of Huang Yueli. On one hand, it was to obstruct a large part of Guo Zhenqing's profound energy suppression, while on the other hand, it was to block the investigative vision which this old man had landed onto Leah. Elder Guo, you're looking for my fiancé, what may we do for you? Guo Zhenqing met Li Moying's cold gloomy eyes and went into a slight blank. Your fiancé? It was now that he finally recalled that it was once mentioned in the report regarding Li Moying's data. that this astonishingly peerless genius had already gotten engaged at such a young age. But Guo Zhenqing totally didn't bother to take notice of his fiancée's biodata at all. From what he thought, if Li Moying indeed had that kind of rumored innate talent, then even a top-talented lady in Sky Emperor City would only be suited to be his concubine, what more for a young lass who had popped out from some countryside. After Li Moying had entered splendid Violet Heavenly Palace, the sect would definitely arrange for other ladies with much outstanding innate talent for them to engage in double cultivation. A country lass from the South Sky region was not even qualified to be his bondmaid. But if Li Moying really liked her that much, taking her in as a servant to warm up his bed wasn't impossible. With this first impression which lasted in his mind, Guo Zhenqing totally wouldn't admit that Li Moying had a fiancé, so naturally he wouldn't go take notice of what her innate talent or cultivation was at. It was right until he met her in person that he realized that he had thought wrongly. Furthermore, it was extremely ridiculously wrong, based on 5th stage realm cultivation to easily deflect a 9th stage realm practitioner's suppression. That kind of innate talent was at least 9th grade upper talent and above. There wouldn't be a second in the entire Sky Emperor City. No wonder Li Moying was in such a hurry to tie her down. So, he wasn't silly nor was he indulging in her female charms, but he had already long knew that the young lady beside him was the only one whose existence was compatible with his. Li Moying, what on earth do you know? This young master here is indulging in her female charms. Guo Zhenqing was instantly excited. What was called cake dropping from the sky? This was it. He had not expected that he came because of Li Moying alone, but he had discovered two peerless geniuses at one go instead. The more fortunate thing was these two were a couple and their relationship was really good. As long as he could settle Li Moying, he would definitely be able to take in this young lass into his wing as well, which was killing two birds with one stone. To take in two 9th grade talent disciples. If it really went according to his way, Guo Zhenqing would probably wake up from his dream while laughing. Thinking of this, Guo Zhenqing totally discarded the stance of a 7 sacred land elder and kept away all the profound energy which he had unleashed. His wrinkled face revealed a smile as he took a step upwards, and his attitude instantly became unusually amiable and kindly. Master Li, Miss Bai, which powerhouse do you intend to lean towards? Which area does splendid Violet Heavenly Palace make you dissatisfied? Or could it be that you have other conditions? Feel free to speak your mind and let's discuss it. Why must you keep people at a distance of 1,000 miles away the minute you voice out? When Guo Zhenqing said those practitioners who had not fainted all opened their eyes wide as their chins all fell onto the ground. This, just what situation was this? Why had Elder Guo, who had always been cold, aloof, and arrogant, suddenly had a change of face? Hearing this tone, he seemed to be getting into Li Moying's good books. Just what was wrong with this? Li Moying had totally not hesitated to reject his recruitment, so shouldn't Guo Zhenqing be throwing a rage and killing him with one palm strike? Why was it that he actually smiled instead? You can also listen on. Li Moying knew clearly that Guo Zhenqing had taken interest in his Leah for sure. This old man's sight isn't too bad, but unfortunately he had misjudged the scenario wrongly. Li Moying shook his head without any hesitation. Elder Guo, we really don't wish to raise any conditions, but we just merely don't want to join splendid Violet Heavenly Palace. Guo Zhenqing frowned, apparently not believing in what he said. Mr. Li, we are upright people, so we won't say unclear things. You and your fiancé have arrived in Sky Emperor City, certainly to seek more chances and to seek a breakthrough in your way of cultivation. Based on your innate talent, to breakthrough, you're merely lacking in cultivation methods, inheritances, and various resources, and all these are exactly our splendid Violet Heavenly Palace's forte. Although among the 7 sacred lands, we splendid Violet Heavenly Palace had always been the lowest key clan, but in terms of inheritances and resources, we are in no way inferior to the other few family. Moreover, I can guarantee that you and your fiancé will obtain splendid Violet Heavenly Palace's full support, choosing freely from any cultivation method or resources which you want. The minute he said that, it caused another bustle. The conditions which Guo Zhenqing had raised actually wasn't much different from Cheng Zhenbo, but the amount of money involved was miles apart. Soaring Haven's merchant guild's inheritance and resources were after all limited. But splendid violet heavenly palace as one of the 7 sacred lands, the number of inheritances which they helmed were as vast as the deep sea, innumerable. Many ancient Kabbalah which seemed to have been lost from an outsider's view, could all be found in the scripture depository. However, in such a large powerhouse, inheritances were also hard to obtain as the management was extremely strict. Even for direct disciples, it was necessary to use the clan's contributions to exchange for it. Now Guo Zhenqing actually made the promise of choosing freely as they wished. Just what kind of concept was that? Even if he was splendid violet heavenly palace's elder, not everyone had this kind of authority. If this went out, it would make all the practitioners in Sky Emperor City envy them to death. Everyone assumed that when Li Moying heard this condition, he would definitely not hesitate any further and agree to it immediately. This was a rare opportunity which could not be found easily, and once they've missed it, how would there be a second time? Even if Li Moying really didn't want to incline towards any forces, but he would surely change his mind at this time, right? Even Luo Jiyun, Mo Yi, and the rest also felt that Li Moying would nod his head. Whoever knew that when Li Moying heard that, the expression on his face did not change as he resolutely shook his head. Elder Guo, I've already made things very clear. No matter what conditions you offer, it's impossible for me to join the splendid violet heavenly palace. Guo Zhenqing also couldn't breathe. As Skychart's 12-ranked top exponent, he didn't have many opponents in the entire Sky Emperor City, so whichever practitioner saw him wouldn't shiver in fear and trepidation, treating him like an emperor. How many years had it been since he had automatically expressed any good intent towards anyone? Whoever knew that he had already got off his high horse, and yet Li Moying actually refused to give any face to him? On hearing the surroundings' whisperings, Guo Zhenqing's old face couldn't hang on any further. Good, you're indeed a peerless genius who had appeared once every 10,000 years, indeed conceited. A pity, no matter how high your innate talent is, your wings have yet to grow and you're being too arrogant. Since you refuse to listen to my kind words, then don't blame me for being nasty. Guo Zhenqing couldn't take his loss of face as his expression changed and the profound energy in his body suddenly gathered in an instant as he abruptly struck out. A 9th stage realm practitioner's penetrative and overbearing profound energy suddenly struck out towards Li Moying. You can also listen on. Momentarily, intense profound energy fluctuations forced the surrounding practitioners to keep on retreating. Bursts of shrill cries filled the sky and a flash of striking bright light enveloped with shocking power rushed towards Li Moying. This burst of turbulent surge of profound energy was like floodwaters. Not only was it extremely overbearing, it also blocked off Li Moying's up, down, left, right, all directions as it all charged towards the position which he was standing at. The minute the bursts of energy closed in around him, Li Moying would be wrapped in between the profound energy, causing instantaneous injuries all over. Guo Zhenqing had a cold smile on his face as he stared intently at Li Moying, just waiting to see his disheveled look after he was struck. However, Li Moying merely casted a slight glance at him and his right finger pointed upwards as he lightly pointed in midair. A word came out of his mouth softly, break. Following his action, Guo Zhenqing's burst of profound energy actually burst in accordance with his command as an intense explosive sound was heard in midair, causing the surrounding few blocks of houses nearby to suffer from the explosion. Whereas Li Moying himself, who was standing in the middle of the profound energy storm, was totally unharmed. On the contrary, Guo Zhenqing suffered the backlash from his own profound skill, which hurt his chest as his blood started churning, almost throwing up blood. You, how is this possible? Guo Zhenqing stared at him with his eyes wide open fixedly, totally unable to believe what he had just seen. He had intentionally shown off his might in front of Li Moying, to let him see his own ability, hence when he made a move, he had used the profound skill which had set a name for himself, something which he was most proud of, River Convergence Sea Palm Strike. But Guo Zhenqing's motive was still to take him in as a disciple, hence, he didn't want to cause any serious damage to Li Moying, so he only used 30% of his energy. But even so, this move was still exceedingly powerful because this was splendid violet heavenly palace's exclusive god-grade profound skill which was passed down from an ancient inheritance. Ordinary practitioners from small forces, even if their cultivation reached 9th stage realm 9th level, they wouldn't have any resistance against this kind of astonishingly destructive power. whereas Li Moying was only at 9th stage realm first level, where his ability was miles apart from Guozhenqing. Furthermore, he came from a small sect in South Sky region, hence he couldn't possibly have seen any kind of god-grade profound skill. How could he possibly have such precise sight to be able to see through the only Achilles' heel in just a flash of thought, and even pinpointed it exactly in just one move? How would Guozhenqing ever know that Li Moying was not some ignorant young lad from a small sect, but he was the most knowledgeable big demon lord in the entire Soaring Heavens continent? Just Guozhenqing himself, he had already been beaten hands down by Mu Chengying, so just how much skills did he had, how would Li Moying possibly not know? But in the eyes of those who didn't know the truth, this scene was just simply too shocking. A newly arrived freshman in Sky Emperor City actually didn't suffer any losses under Guozhenqing, and even easily blocked his turbulent move. This kind of genius was simply unheard of. Guozhenqing's elderly face started to be filled with an embarrassing red shade, feeling that his face was thoroughly lost. At the same time, he valued Li Moying's innate talent even further as his thirst to take him under his wing grew. He gave a slight cough as he covered up and said, "This young lad, your power of comprehension is indeed not bad at all, and your innate talent has passed by me. How about taking a few more strikes to try it out?" His skillful words made the surrounding practitioners reveal an enlightened look. So, Elder Guo was just testing Master Li's ability. That palm strike had probably not even used 50% of his strength. No wonder he could take it on so easily. You can also listen on. Elder Guo really gave a lot of thought into this. That Master Li is able to get such nurturing from Elder Guo, it's really his blessing for 3 lifetimes. Under everyone's praises, Guozhenqing finally found back some face as his expression seemed slightly better. He fiddled with his beard as he put on an unfathomable look and said, "Master Li, have you thought it through already? If you haven't, then I will continue to show you my moves." Huang Yueli looked at his pretense and couldn't help but laughed out. Luckily the bustle from their surroundings overpowered her voice, hence Guozhenqing didn't notice it at all. Huang Yueli shook her head as she was also shocked by Guozhenqing's thick skin. In the past she had always thought that this old man was especially pretentious, and from the looks of it now, it seemed that it was really so. But from his stance that revealed his unwillingness to forgive, could it be that he really intended to forcibly bring her and Li Moying away? Now was the sounding out phase, which was still okay, but if they really started to fight, just based on her and Li Moying's current ability, no matter what they wouldn't be able to fight with a 9th stage realm peak practitioner. Adding on to the fact that splendid Violet Heavenly Palace's flying ship had stopped right above their heads. Looked like they had to think of an idea to get away. Just as she was racking her brains, she suddenly felt a tug on her sleeve from behind. Huang Yueli turned around and saw Luo Jiyun moving close up as he whispered, "Lil sister-in-law, you'd better hurry and persuade eldest senior brother." Huang Yueli went into a blank. Persuade him? Persuade him on what? Luo Jiyun frowned, apparently not expecting that Huang Yueli would be that dazed. "Sigh. Lil sister-in-law, why are you also, do you guys know or not, splendid Violet Heavenly Palace's recruitment, what does that mean? I've heard of the practitioners in Sky Emperor City mentioned that splendid Violet Heavenly Palace is one of the 7 sacred lands, but they are one of the top forces in the entire Soaring Heavens continent. All the geniuses who are able to join the 7 sacred lands treat it as an honor, and every 10 years when the 7 sacred lands recruit disciples, many geniuses from everywhere all rushed over, just fighting and hoping to gain a quota. Now splendid Violet Heavenly Palace's elder actually personally came over to invite eldest senior brother, wanting to take him in as a disciple. Moreover, from his tone, it seemed that he seems to be one of the top-rated top exponent in Sky Emperor City. Why wouldn't eldest senior brother agree to it? What is he still waiting for? If he misses this town, then he won't come across this shop anymore. Luo Jiyun tweaked his ears and scratched his cheek as he was so anxious that he kept stomping his feet. He was really feeling anxious for Li Moying. This was the 7 sacred lands. Moreover, the minute he joined them he would become an elder's direct disciple, freely choosing from the cultivation methods or resources. Who could offer better conditions than these? Luo Jiyun really couldn't understand what his own eldest senior brother was still hesitating about. Even the usually composed Mo Yi couldn't sit still, as he lowered his voice and asked, "Third Miss, why does Master refuse to go to splendid Violet Heavenly Palace?" This elder Guo is really very sincere. They really couldn't understand. Li Moying came to Sky Emperor City. Wasn't it for the sake of formally becoming an apprentice to a master to cultivate? Why didn't he just follow the flow and joined splendid Violet Heavenly Palace? Huang Yueli didn't know if she should laugh or cry. She had some dealings with splendid Violet Heavenly Palace in her past life, so did she need them to tell her about their condition? She helplessly said, "Can all of you have some confidence in Moying? He definitely has some arrangement of his own, so you need not worry." A mere splendid Violet Heavenly Palace had made them so unperturbed already. If they found out about the ultimate place which they were going to end up at, the legendary #1 sacred lands in every practitioner's heart, Blue Profound Sect, wouldn't they be so shocked that they would faint? You can also listen on. By now, Guo Zhenqing had already lost his patience. The surrounding practitioners didn't know, but he understood it very clearly. Li Moying was young and had lofty aspirations with excellent innate talent, hence it was reasonable for him to be this conceited. Towards this kind of peerless genius, he could only use absolute power to convince him totally. Hence Guo Zhenqing didn't hesitate any further as he gave a light cough. "Mr. Li, this old man is going to strike again." He had decided that this time round, he must absolutely display his absolute power to let Li Moying understand his incredibility. Whoever knew that his words had just fallen when a resonant neigh was heard. Immediately following that was the sound of the fluttering of wings. Guo Zhenqing had already extended his right hand halfway as he stopped in mid-air, entirely stunned. Because in the entire Sky Emperor City, powerhouses which had special authority to fly in the skies could be counted with one's fingers, but amongst them, the only one who didn't require a mechanism to operate the flying ship but insisted on using flying beasts to pull the ship was. The fluttering of wings sound got nearer and nearer, and also more and more distinct. The flying beasts which pulled the boat were entirely white ink-crowned snow condors. Other than the ink-colored crown, tip of wings and tail feathers, the other parts of it were of pure snow-white color. Every ink-crowned snow condor's wings extended to at least 20 meters long, and when so many of them extended their wings, it hid the sky and covered the earth, hiding a large portion of the sky above everyone's heads, causing a part of the region to turn dark. Ink-crowned snow condors were genuine 8th grade magical beasts. Not only were they flying speed extremely swift, their attack power was also shockingly incredible. Ordinary 9th stage realm practitioners might not even be able to escape from an ink-crowned snow condor alive. But such valiant flying beasts were just like ordinary horses right now, being reared as they were sheathed with ropes to pull the ship. Furthermore, it wasn't just one or two but an entire fleet of 36 of them. A large majority of practitioners had never seen this stance as their eyes widened like full moons with their mouths agape, staring blanking into the sky, all assuming that their conscious weren't clear and they had developed hallucinations. But when the trio Guo Zhenqing, Cheng Zhenbo, and Feng Boizhong saw that flying ship above everyone's heads, they were so frightened that their legs almost turned into jelly. This is Sovereign Mu's snow cloud sky ship. There was only one in the entire Sky Emperor City who used ink-crowned snow condors to pull the flying ship, and that was Blue Profound Sect's Sovereign Mu, #1 top exponent in Soaring Heavens Continent's Mu Chengying's personal use flying ship. In the past, whenever this flying ship appeared, numerous practitioners would be frightened out of their wits as they knelt down onto the ground, but this flying ship had not appeared for the past 15 to 16 years, hence those ordinary practitioners who had just entered the city had not recognized it. But for those top exponents who had established themselves for a long time, it was impossible for Guo Zhenqing and the others to not recognize it. Just what was going on? Could it be that the unparalleled peak practitioner that year had reappeared in Sky Emperor City? Guo Zhenqing and the others looked at one another in dismay as all they could see from each other's eyes was shock and surprise. This was impossible, right? Didn't they all say that Mu Chengying had entered Qi deviation when he was in closed-door cultivation, and there was an 80% chance that his bones had turned into ashes? Even Huang Yueli widened her eyes in surprise. She was the most familiar with this flying ship because this was the most complex 9th-tier profound armament which she had refined personally. Snow Cloud Skyship required 8th grade magical beasts to pull the ship, absolutely not because it was glamorous but because the internal structure was just too complex, and if it had to be operated with mechanics, then it would simply be too heavy. You can also listen on. In order to maintain the best condition of the flying ship, they decided on using ink-crowned snow condors to pull the ship. In this way, not only would it lessen the weight, it would also raise the flying speed to a new limit. In a flash, it would reach 100 miles. This was one of the most delighted words of Huang Yueli's, and only Blue Profound Sect had the ability to tame so many ink-crowned snow condors to materialize her concept. Huang Yueli raised her head and observed for a moment, then tugged Li Moying's back as she whispered, "Why had the Snow Cloud Skyship appeared here as well? Have you asked Blue Profound Sect's people to come for reinforcement?" Li Moying nodded his head and lowered his voice as he leaned towards her ear. "Splendid Violet Heavenly Palace's old man Guo has his sights on us, and earlier his disciple had ran away secretly, apparently to look for reinforcements. If we don't have any reinforcements, then we can forget about leaving. If we were really captured to Splendid Violet Heavenly Palace, then things would take a difficult turn." Huang Yueli looked at his slightly frowning face and she couldn't help but burst out into laughter. No wonder Li Moying was at a loss. If the two of them were forcibly brought back to Splendid Violet Heavenly Palace, then ultimately he would still require the 4 great guardians to pick them up, then they would totally not be able to keep low-key at all. The worst of it all was that Li Moying's identity would be exposed sooner or later, and if his capture to Splendid Violet Heavenly Palace's matter was exposed, it would be the only stain towards his entire wise times. If this was known to anyone else, they would probably laugh their tooth off. It was really damaging to the number 1 top exponent's pride. Li Moying stared at his black-bellied little fox in his arms. "You're still laughing." He really couldn't wait to take a bite off her. Her own fiancé was stuck in a difficult position, and yet she was still gloating over his misfortune. She was really a little thing with no conscience. Huang Yueli stopped laughing. "Who asked you to be so genius? Now you're finally famous, eh?" Li Moying pinched her gently at her waist. "My genius fiancé's contributions wouldn't go unnoticed as well." Under everyone's awestruck gazes, the Snow Cloud Skyship slowly landed above everyone's heads. It was until now that a few practitioners finally recognized the huge totem at the bottom of the Snow Cloud Skyship. Take a look quickly. That's the emblem of Blue Profound Sect. This is Blue Profound Sect's flying ship. No wonder it's so eye-catching. Heavens, isn't Blue Profound Sect very mysterious and rarely appeared in Sky Emperor City? Now it actually appeared with great fanfare in the city entrance. What big matter is happening? Could it be? Surely it isn't like what I'm guessing, right? What is your guess? Could it be that Blue Profound Sect has the same idea in mind with Splendid Violet Heavenly Palace, just to recruit that Mr. Li? Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. What kind of place is the Blue Profound Sect? That is the most sacred land among the sacred land. Even 9th stage realm peak practitioners can forget about joining them easily, and Sovereign Mu had never personally recruited anyone before. How would he personally send anyone over for a genius? But, if it's not like this, why would Blue Profound Sect's flying ship suddenly appear at this place? Everyone's vision started to float uncontrollably towards Li Moying. Everyone kept on pondering in their minds, guessing just what was his background. Why did he attract so many powerhouses' attention on the first day of his entry to the city? Moreover, the backing just got bigger and bigger. Now even the Blue Profound Sect was alarmed. Just at this moment, a ramp was slowly released from the side of the flying ship and a man's silhouette appeared in mid-air. Guo and the others shivered all over as they immediately turned their gazes towards that figure. You can also listen on. By the time they saw the incoming person clearly, they all heaved a sigh of relief. The person who appeared at the top of the ramp was not Mu Chengying, but the leader of his 4 great guardians. Kang Po-jun Blue Profound Sect's clansmen were filled with plenty of people with power, and Mu Chengying's most trusted 4 great guardians were all 9th stage realm peak practitioners. Kang Po-jun was ranked 8 on the sky chart, and his potential was even higher than Guo Zhenqing. Kang Po-jun naturally wasn't some easygoing person, but no matter what, he wasn't Mu Chengying himself. After Guo Zhenqing and the others saw him, The stone in their hearts was finally let go by a chunk. If it really was Mu Chengying who had appeared, it would really scare these people to death alive. Heavens knew just how much that shockingly powerful king with no match had increased in his ability to what degree after so many years of closed-door cultivation. For the past 10 over years, many of them had assumed that he was dead and had secretly done some things behind his back, and if he really met with it personally, the only end result was death with no burial ground. Luckily, they were only scaring themselves. The one who appeared on the snow-cloud skyship was only Kang Po-jun. Even so, Guo Zhanqing and the others still felt a little uneasy as they kept sizing up their options while staring at the flying ship continuously. After all, the snow-cloudy skyship was Mu Chengying's personal use flying ship in the past, and even if it was his most trusted aide Kang Po-jun, he didn't have the guts to use it privately. Now that he dared to sit in this flying ship, was Mu Chengying really dead or not? Or, was Mu Chengying on the ship, just now showing himself? Just as Guo Zhanqing and the others were being apprehensive, Kang Po-jun had already led his subordinates, landing onto the ground. Guo Zhanqing and the others immediately swarmed upwards as they kept fawning on him. "Sir Po-jun, we haven't met for a long time. How have you been? It's been some time since we last met." Sir Po-jun's cultivation seemed to have advanced. "Congratulations. I was just thinking of heading over to Blue Profound Sect some other day to meet with Sir. I'd not expected that we would meet here so coincidentally." Guo Zhanqing was still considered all right as he politely cupped his fist into his other hand, but Cheng Zhanbo and Feng Boizhong ran over rather dog-leggedly as they were just short of cleaning Kang Po-jun's shoes for him. Kang Po-jun seemed as though he didn't hear their flattery as he didn't even shift his sight and headed straight upwards. Everyone involuntarily retreated as they opened up a path for him. Kang Po-jun walked towards Li Moying, and when he was just a few steps away, he stopped and sized up the young lad in front of his eyes. After his rebirth, Li Moying's current looks was simply too young, and moreover the imposing manner from him, although to an ordinary practitioner, was already extremely powerful, but to Kang Po-jun's impression of that unparalleled strong practitioner, he seemed to be just short of that little bit. Just as Kang Po-jun was hesitant, Li Moying abruptly lifted his eyes and met with his. The bitter frost beneath his eyes appeared, and that severe and fearful murderous intent was so realistic that it made one feel fear all over. Kang Po-jun's body shivered as his legs turned soft, almost kneeling down right there. This familiar gaze and temperament, he absolutely would not recognize it wrongly. This was Mu Chengying's reincarnation. Just as Kang Po-jun was about to kneel on the ground, Li Moying suddenly spoke out. "Sir Po-jun, what may I do for you?" That cold voice which bore the suppressing feeling that assimilated one's will and soul made Kang Po-jun's brain buzz. When he heard Li Moying actually greeting him as Sir, he suddenly regained his composure, recalling the instructions that Li Moying had sent to him in his letter, to not expose his identity in public. "You can also listen on." Kang Po-jun hurriedly steadied himself as he forcibly stood upright. But in outsiders' eyes, his earlier action was a little too strange, as though he wasn't able to walk steadily, almost falling down flat on his face. Huang Yueli almost burst out laughing again. It was simply like a mouse seeing a cat. But this had also verified just how powerful Mu Chengying was then. Even after so many years, he was still able to make his subordinates fall under his awe-inspiring ability. Kang Po-jun was stared coldly by Li Moying, and he shivered, instinctively feeling that he had almost messed up the task which he was given. He hurriedly mended the pen after the sheep were lost as he gave a slight cough and put on an arrogant posture. "You are Master Li? Since you already know who I am, then I need not give any more explanations. With respect to Sovereign Mu's orders, I'm here to invite Master Li back to Blue Profound Sect." When those words were heard, the surrounding practitioners' eyes almost all popped out. They had not expected that Kang Po-jun's appearance right here was actually really to recruit Li Moying. Just what kind of innate talent did this Li guy had? Even Blue Profound Sect came up and expressed their good intentions. Guo Zhanqing and the others felt as though they were struck by lightning. They had already long guessed Kang Po-jun's intentions and knew that since Blue Profound Sect's great guardian had appeared, the bunch of them would definitely not have any more chance, which wasn't so surprising. What was really shocking was Kang Po-jun's sentence, with respect to Sovereign Mu's orders. Hearing the meaning in his words, Could it really mean that Mu Chengying had really come out of his closed-door cultivation? Li Moying pretended to consider for a short moment and nodded his head. Since that's the case, will Sir Po Jun please lead the way? He couldn't be bothered to put on an act any further because based on Blue Profound Sect status, no matter how arrogant the geniuses were, they all treated entering Blue Profound Sect as an honor. His sudden change of mind would not make anyone feel surprised at all. Kang Po Jun wasn't willing to continue acting as well because being greeted by his own sovereign with a word "sir" made his spine felt chilly every single time he heard that. He hurriedly nodded his head in a fluster. "Master Li, please come along with me." Saying that, he turned around and wanted to leave, thinking of leaving this awkward place. On seeing the both of them about to leave, Guo Zhenqing stood up in a hurry and he shot upwards quickly and asked, "Sir Po Jun, please wait a moment. This old man has a word of inquiry." Kang Po Jun's footsteps took a halt. "Elder Guo, today it indeed was your splendid Violet Heavenly Palace who had reached here first, but Master Li had chosen Blue Profound Sect. This is, no, this old man here doesn't mean that. Master Li choosing Blue Profound Sect is a justified and reasonable choice." Guo Zhenqing hurriedly shook his head and followed asking carefully, "Sir Po Jun, the Snow Cloud Skyship had not appeared in Sky Emperor City for 10 over years and today its sudden appearance, does it mean that Sovereign Mu has come over personally?" He watched Kang Po Jun's expression carefully, trying to find an answer. If it was only Kang Po Jun who had taken interest in Li Moying, wanting to snatch him away, Guo Zhenqing would not easily pass him up so easily. The person who was truly snatching him away was in Kang Po Jun's hint in his words. If Mu Chengying had really come and he truly went against Blue Profound Sect's meaning, wouldn't it be seeking for death? Guo Zhenqing wanted to probe on the truth of this matter. Kang Po Jun turned his head back and looked at him straight in the eye as he replied calmly, "Elder Guo is an established top exponent for many years. Surely you're very clear that other than our sovereign, no one else would be able to utilize this Snow Cloud Skyship, isn't it?" He intentionally avoided Guo Zhenqing's question. You can also listen on. He didn't admit nor did he deny. Guo Zhenqing's expression instantly turned extremely pale. From what he saw, Kang Po Jun's answer was simply equivalent to admitting that Mu Chengying was sitting right in the Snow Cloud Skyship. Guo Zhenqing totally didn't doubted Kang Po Jun's words because any practitioner who had experienced Mu Chengying's fully flourished times knew that the Snow Cloud Skyship was refined by Huang Yueli for Mu Chengying, so Mu Chengying had never allowed anyone else to utilize it without authority. Whereas for Mu Chengying not to appear was very normal. After all, what status did the sovereign have? Surely they didn't expect him to appear right here to exchange humble greetings with an elder from splendid Violet Heavenly Palace, right? The more Guo Zhenqing thought, the more terrified he got as the cold sweat on his back kept profusing. Mu Chengying was out of his closed-door cultivation. He had to hurry back immediately to report this huge matter to his palace lord. Kang Po Jun carefully shot a glance towards Li Moying and upon realizing that he wasn't upset, he hurriedly turned around and led the way. Li Moying held Huang Yueli's hand as he walked in a neither fast nor slow pace towards the Snow Cloud Skyship. Standing behind them, Luo Jiun and the others were completely stunned, and even after a while, they were still unable to get used to it. It was because the appearance of Kang Po Jun had made them too surprised. They had originally thought that to be able to gain the interest from splendid Violet Heavenly Palace's elder was already Li Moying's streak of good luck, as that indicated that he would fly into greater heights in future. In the end, whoever knew that an even greater surprise was waiting for them, Li Moying actually successfully joined Blue Profound Sect. Blue Profound Sect. That was the sacred land among the sacred lands in all practitioners' mind. They really didn't dare to believe that such a lucky thing would happen. Huang Yueli realized their abnormality as she stopped and turned back to wave at them, indicating for them to follow up. Luo Jiun, Mo Yi, and the others then woke up from their dream as they hurriedly chased up to them. On seeing that vast and luxurious flying ship in front of his eyes, Luo Jiun was simply unable to suppress the excitement and emotion stirred in his heart as he leaned closed towards Huang Yueli's other side. "Lil sister-in-law, can you quickly pinch me? Am I really not dreaming?" Eldest senior brother actually joined the Blue Profound Sect. When Huang Yueli heard that, Her brows rose and she swiftly stretched out her fingers as a burst of profound energy struck Luo Jiyun below his ribs. Ouch! Ouch! Luo Jiyun almost cried out miserably, but he still remembered that Kang Po-jun was some 9th stage realm peak top exponent whom he could not afford to offend, and as he was afraid of making him upset, he hurriedly stopped his groaning at the back of his throat, but his face had already flushed a deep red shade. Lil sister-in-law, you're too vicious. He grimaced in pain softly. Huang Yueli innocently shrugged her shoulders. You're the one who asked me to pinch you. Be you. But, do you still feel that you're in a dream now? Huang Yueli interrupted him. Luo Jiyun looked left and looked right and realized that there wasn't any change in his surroundings as he said, It's really real. Eldest senior brother is simply too powerful. Even Blue Profound Sect's sovereign came to recruit him. Then can we assume the status of his servants to enter the Blue Profound Sect as well? Huang Yueli laughed meaningfully. You cannot be servants. What? Can't even be servants? At least I am of an 8th grade talent. Luo Jiyun's shoulders drooped down in disappointment. Everyone knew that large powerhouses' high-grade inheritances were plentiful, and even a cultivation method learnt by the servants were much higher class than a direct disciple from a small force. Hence there were plenty of practitioners every year who didn't mind becoming servants, just to join the 7 sacred lands. You can also listen on. Luo Jiyun naturally was no exception. Actually, based on his 8th grade talent, there was still hope for him to join one of the top 10 clans or Soaring Heavens Merchant Guild level kind of powerhouse. But in order to join the 7 sacred lands, it was practically hopeless. Because although his innate talent wasn't not, but he was no longer in his peak age to start cultivating. Practitioners who were over 12, their ability and future would no longer be reliant on innate talent. More so, it was related to the cultivation methods which they cultivated with and the resources which they obtained in their younger days, as well as luck. Equivalent practitioners with the same innate talent, if their experience training was different, it would merely take a few years to show the difference in their abilities. Although Luo Jiyun's innate talent wasn't bad at all, but he had grown up in South Sky region, so his ability as compared to those who had been nurtured in Sky Emperor City's large powerhouses' 8th grade talented practitioners, the distance was still extremely huge. Perhaps he might not even match up to many 7th-grade talented practitioners. Not to mention entering Blue Profound Sect, that kind of number 1 sacred land, even if it was the other 7 sacred lands, the possibility of recruiting him was very low. So Luo Jiyun was hungering to follow Li Moying into Blue Profound Sect. Even if it was to be a servant, it was a heavenly chance to him. Huang Yueli looked at his disappointed look and smiled as she shook her head. She hoped that when he found out about the truth later, he had better not faint from the shock. Very quickly the few of them followed Kang Po-jun into the snow-cloud skyship. Luo Jiyun's body apparently tensed up as he hung his head low in fear and trepidation, not daring to look around at all. Mo Yi and the others didn't even dare to breath loudly. The minute they entered the flying ship, it was entering Sky Emperor City's number 1 sacred lands territory. How many practitioners wouldn't feel tensed and excited entering this kind of place? Huang Yueli, however, surveyed the surroundings at ease, and following that, she gave a slight smile. Blue Profound Sect's 4 great guardians had indeed all arrived. Hearing that, Luo Jiyun was so tense that his cold sweat kept on sprouting as his voice quivered. What? 4 great guardians have all arrived? Then could it be that Sovereign Mu has also? Blue Profound Sect's 4 great guardians were all top-rated exponents in Sky Emperor City's sky chart's top 20 ranking practitioners, and when the 4 of them appeared together in the snow-cloud skyship, the enclosed area which had been completely dominated by 9th stage realm peak practitioners' profound energy, that overpowering suppression made one unable to breathe. Luo Jiyun only felt his scalp turned numb as he was so tense that he didn't know where to place his hands and feet. Just at this moment, Kang Po-jun's footsteps suddenly stopped as he turned around. Luo Jiyun thought that he was about to start his lecture and had already prepared to bow in respect. Just at this moment, Kang Po-jun suddenly plopped onto the ground on his 2 knees and bowed down in front of Li Moying. Luo Jiyun and the others were startled. Sister-in-law, what's going on? What on earth happened? Huang Yueli was not able to answer in time when the other 3 guardians had also hurriedly knelt down. Our respects to Sovereign, welcoming Sovereign's return back to Blue Profound Sec. The 4 guardians spoke out at the same time as they respectfully bent their heads over. Under Luo Jiyun and the others' awestruck gazes, Li Moying lifted his hand slightly as he spoke out in a cold, chilly voice, "Stand up, all of you. It has been hard on you for the past few years. This sovereign has taken note of your contributions to the sect. You can also listen on." Li Moying swept a glance at the few present and said, "No need to be so humble. This sovereign had left for so many years, so there should be quite a number of huge matters which had happened in Sky Emperor City, hence there is an urgent need for this sovereign to understand about it all." The 4 great guardians escorted Li Moying to the first place and respectfully stood upright by the side. Luo Jiyun and the others were completely mortified as they stood in a daze by the side, not even daring to make a single move. Seeing this scene was just too fascinating. Kang Po-jun and others actually greeted Li Moying's sovereign, but Blue Profound Sect sovereign, as everyone knew, was the #1 top expert in Soaring Heavens continent, Mu Chengying. What relation did it have to do with Li Moying? Could it be that the Li Moying in front of their eyes was fake, and they had recognized the wrong person? Or perhaps they were poisoned and their consciousness were unclear, hence they had developed hallucinations? Li Moying was seated right in the middle and his gaze swept towards the entrance and saw the dazed Luo Junyun and others. He naturally knew that his identity being exposed would bring about what kind of shock to them, but there wasn't any time to explain to them right now. Li Moying turned his head back towards Kang Po-jun and said, "This sovereign had brought along some people and they have been following this sovereign since in South Sky region and are extremely loyal. Arrange a place for them to have some rest first and in future, they will all be disciples of Blue Profound Sect." Kang Po-jun hurriedly responded as he called out for 2 attendants, "Go, bring those few people over there to the superior room to have a rest." Even after Luo Jiyun and the others were brought out of the main cabin, they still felt as though they were dreaming and their feet were threading on clouds, totally not being able to steady their footsteps. Every one of them had an extremely distracted expression, totally not knowing what they were doing at all. It simply was because the matter which had just happened was too sensational until even the usually composed Mo Yi also felt that he was still in a dream. The other 2 attendants were extremely envious of them as they couldn't help but open their mouths. "You few have really good luck. That year when we wanted to join Blue Profound Sect, we spent quite a number of years to pass through the various assessments before outranking the top few hundreds of talents to shine. Now you're just so lucky to have followed Sovereign in South Sky region and be able to join the sect. Moreover, from Sovereign's tone, you will at least get the treatment of inner disciples. The entire sect's disciples would envy you guys to death." What they didn't mention was that Blue Profound Sect had never accepted formal disciples of 8th grade talents and below. If one wanted to become inner disciples, they were required to be ranked top 10 in various sects' internal tournaments before they had a chance. But who asked Mo Yi and the others to be Li Moying's trusted aides when they were in South Sky region? This luck was really something which the others weren't able to help but only to be envious of it. When Luo Jiyun heard their sourish words, his confused thoughts finally regained some clarity. He held on to one of the attendants as he asked in an unhesitant manner, "This, elder brother, I'm a little, have I heard wrongly earlier? Earlier Sir Po-jun actually called my eldest senior brother Sovereign. But, how is this possible? Eldest senior brother had grown up in the South Sky region since young?" Because of shock, Luo Jiyun had already started to speak incoherently. But upon hearing his words, the 2 attendees were even more stunned than him as their faces looked as though they had just seen a living ghost. "What did you say? Our sovereign is your eldest senior brother? What is your relationship with the sovereign?" Luo Jiyun was stared at by them so fixatedly until he didn't know what to do, as he blinked his eyes with an extremely troubled expression. You can also listen on. It's just senior and junior brother relationship. Eldest senior brother and I are all South Sky region's Celestial Light Sect's direct disciples, and today we have just entered Sky Emperor City. His words had just fallen as the 2 attendees exchanged glances. The duo's attitude immediately underwent a change. Earlier the glance towards Luo Jiyun and the others was rather disdainful because of their incapability. But now, the two of them were extremely respectful. "Oh, this young master here is Sovereign South Sky Region's junior brother. We have disgraced ourselves earlier." Although the two of them assumed the identities of attendees, but they were Kang Po Jun's trusted subordinates and their statuses in Blue Profound Sect weren't lowly at all. Furthermore, their cultivations were currently at 6th stage realm later stage, so in terms of battle power, they were far above Luo Jiyun. Luo Jiyun saw them being so courteous and felt extremely embarrassed as he hurriedly said, "Elder brothers, you're too kind. I'm just an ordinary practitioner in South Sky region. Contrariwise my eldest senior brother, what identity does he have? Why did Sir Po Jun even, thinking of the scenario when 4 great guardians knelt down towards Li Moying earlier, Luo Jiyun was disarrayed in the wind once again. This simply was just too inconceivable. Even until now he still felt that he was in a dream. The attendants hesitated for a moment and asked, "Mister, don't you know even a little bit on your eldest senior brother's identity?" Luo Jiyun shook his head. "What identity?" The attendants thought about it and said, "Anyway, Mr. Li is indeed Blue Profound Sect Sovereign." If this was not the case, how would the 4 great guardians possibly kneel down to him so easily? Luo Jiyun naturally knew this logic, but he just couldn't get it. But, eldest senior brother grew up with me since young and today is indeed the first time he entered Sky Emperor City. How did he suddenly become Blue Profound Sect Sovereign? If he was your sovereign, then how about Sovereign Mu? The attendant smiled. "Since you're Sovereign's junior brother, then I will not be able to comment any further on this matter. In future you will naturally find out about the truth. Now, will all of you please come along with us?" In the main cabin, Luo Jiyun and the others left, but Huang Yueli didn't move at all. Kang Po Jun had just noticed that exceptional beautiful young lady who had always stood beside Li Moying, and recalling back about the intimacy she had with Li Moying earlier, a shocking idea suddenly festered in his mind. He forgot his manners and cried out in shock, "Sovereign, this young lady. Could she be?" Li Moying frowned slightly as a displeased look appeared on his face while berating softly, "What's the fuss about? This lady here is the reincarnation of Miss Huang." Huang Yueli smiled as she showed her pearly white teeth. "Hi guardians, long time no see." Since earlier, she had been observing Li Moying's 4 guardians. Other than the first guardian Kang Po Jun, Kang Po Yu helmed a refined temperament, taciturn and low-keyed person who was a 9th rank array grandmaster and also one of Mu Chengying's think tank team members. The one with a smile always hanging on his face and also the youngest member with the highest innate talent was Kang Po Hun, while the cold-faced ice beauty Kang Ningyu was the only female among the 4 great guardians. These 4 were considered as old acquaintances with Huang Yueli. Only thing was, that year all of them had treated Huang Yueli with utmost respect. As expected, upon hearing Li Moying's words, the 4 great guardians all revealed an extremely shocked expression as they stared intently at her. You can also listen on. After some time later, Kang Ningyu was the first to start exclaiming, "Not possible, right? How could this be possible? Could this really be Grandmaster Huang?" Kang Po Hun scrutinized Huang Yueli for a long time as his mouth opened wide while speaking in disbelief. "This looks really a little like Grandmaster Huang, seriously?" Even the most composed and stable Kang Po Jun almost slipped and overturned the teacup on the table. Only Kang Po Yu kept silent as he looked thoughtfully at Huang Yueli's dainty little face. Huang Yueli's lips curled up as she was totally not surprised by everyone's reaction at all. After all, the scene where she had self-exploded in northern icefields was something which everyone in Soaring Heaven's continent knew about. Theoretically speaking, she could no longer reincarnate, but she was suddenly reborn and even standing right here alive, so anyone would feel shocked from this. She smiled and said, "I'm Huang Yueli, replacement guaranteed if not genuine. Furthermore, I've already gotten engaged officially to your sovereign, so in future, I'll be depending on you guys." When she said this, it was another heavyweight bomb dropping on them. The few guardians' chins almost dropped onto the ground. Who didn't know that Mu Chengying had wooed Huang Yueli for more than a decade, but Huang Yueli wasn't willing to nod her head to marry him. In the end, the both of them had just reincarnated and Huang Yueli decided to marry. Just what happened in the past 10 over years. Kang Po-jun's brows creased as he thought for a moment and suddenly spoke out in enlightenment. Oh. Congratulations to Sovereign and Grandmaster Huang, all's well ends well. Sovereign, I'd not expected that your plan actually succeeded. This is really, for the past 100,000 years, no one had ever managed to complete this astonishing pioneering work. Congratulations, Sovereign. Hearing Kang Po-jun's words, the other three guardians also revealed an enlightened expression as they all bowed towards Li Moying to pay their respects. Congratulations, Sovereign, finally getting what you desired. Congratulations, Sovereign. Huang Yueli was originally filled with smiles, but when she heard Kang Po-jun's words, not knowing why, her heart suddenly felt a little uncomfortable. Kang Po-jun's words sounded rather strange and there were quite a number of areas which she didn't understand. Huang Yueli asked in curiosity, "What does Sir Po-jun mean? What plan were you talking about? And what astonishing pioneering work had not succeeded for the past 100,000 years? What riddle are you playing?" Kang Po-jun went into a blank as he apparently did not expect Huang Yueli to ask about this. He looked at Huang Yueli and turned back to look at Li Moying. He saw an obvious fury surfacing on his face as his cold and harsh stare shot over towards him. Kang Po-jun shivered as he suddenly realized that he had committed a serious mistake. The Sovereign seemed to not have told that matter to Grandmaster Huang yet. In this case, wasn't he acting like a smart aleck as this slipped out from his mouth? Sensing Li Moying's murderous glare, Kang Po-jun trembled as he hurriedly gave a dry laugh in an attempt to conceal his mistake. Where's the riddle? It's merely because Grandmaster Huang is just too difficult to woo, so this subordinate is feeling happy for Sovereign. I wonder when will Sovereign and Grandmaster Huang be officially getting married? Your subordinates, we have been waiting for this day for a long time. Really? Huang Yueli's brows rose in suspicion. She somehow felt that Kang Po-jun was saying that, but his original meaning was another thing and still wanted to pursue the topic. Just at this moment, Li Moying suddenly gave a cold harumph as he said, "The few of you, why are you still in a daze over there for? Since Leah is already engaged to this Sovereign, then in future, Grandmaster Huang will be Blue Profound Sect Savrignis, still not coming over to pay your respect to Savrignis? You can also listen on." The four great guardians shivered as they hurriedly turned around and bowed down towards Huang Yueli's direction. "Our respects to Savrignis." Huang Yueli was a little surprised and after a short blank, she indicated for them to get up quickly. At the same time, she couldn't help but turned back to stare at Li Moying as she mumbled in dissatisfaction, "What's up? Why call me Savrignis? We have merely gotten engaged, so there's no need to make me sound that old, right? Moreover speaking, we have yet to be married officially, so whether I will really be getting married to you in future, that's actually hard to say." Li Moying originally wanted to divert her attention, hence he made the four great guardians bow down to pay their respects to her. But when he heard her words, he immediately shot her a cold stare and established the command towards the four great guardians, "Remember this, after we get back to Blue Profound Sect, pass down this Sovereign's command. Whenever anyone sees Grandmaster Huang in the sect, they must address her as Savrignis and whoever who disobeys will be punished severely." Huang Yueli's eyes grew wide as she simply could not believe what she heard. Li Moying had just returned to Blue Profound Sect, not even for an hour, and he immediately turned as overbearing and conceited as in his past life. This was simply compelling her to submit. Huang Yueli stomped her feet and shot up to him in a few quick steps as she whisked his clothes around his chest area while angrily retorting, "What do you mean by that? Haven't you heard what I said? I don't like to be called Impage." She had yet completed her words when Li Moying suddenly lowered his head and blocked her pink tender lips, which kept on opening and closing, at the same time stuffing back the words of resistance back into her mouth. Huang Yueli pushed his chest and tried to evade him but was locked in securely by that man, rendering her totally immovable. Luckily Li Moying probably considered the current situation, hence he only dabbled and stopped. Not too long later, he released her. Huang Yueli covered her mouth as her face was already flushed with a shade of red. You, Li Moying laughed, "Savrignis, other than marrying this Sovereign, there's no second choice for you, so you'd better keep a tight rein over your heart." Huang Yueli couldn't wait to bite him, but a pity that this action was just too ambiguous, and under the four great guardians' attention, she simply couldn't make herself do it. She stared angrily at Li Moying, and while she was in the middle of thinking, Li Moying had already turned towards Kang Po-jun as though nothing had happened. When this sovereign wasn't around, how is the situation in the sect? Kang Po-jun was originally stunned from watching, but upon hearing Li Moying's question, he abruptly regained his senses and responded, "Yes. Report to Sovereign, the sect's internal situation is considered rather stable and Sovereign's fame is rather all like thunder piercing the ear. In the first 10 years, no one dared to be rash, but in the recent few years, some situations still happened." Li Moying could tell that he hemmed and hawed as he couldn't help but give a cold sneer. Looks like a lot of people assumed that this sovereign had already died and are starting to stir. Yes, Sovereign is wise. Li Moying's slender long fingers played around with the exquisite flower-patterned teacup on the table as his tone was tranquil and calm. Who are those people? He seemed as though he couldn't care less, but the four great guardians were his trusted aides and could tell the silent murderous intent hiding in his heart. Apparently, Big Demon Lord had returned, and these people who actually dared to betray him, their ending would be extremely miserable. Kang Po-jun silently sighed as he hurriedly stated everything to Li Moying clearly. Huang Yueli was also attracted by this topic, and sitting beside Li Moying, she pricked up her ears to listen. Li Moying was listening to Kang Po-jun and secretly stole a glance at the quiet and graceful young lady's side view as he secretly heaved a long sigh of relief. This lass seemed to have already forgotten the things which Kang Po-jun had accidentally let slip earlier. You can also listen on. The few of them had a discussion in the main cabin for over 2 hours, and Li Moying finally grasped the big picture on Blue Profound Sect and Sky Emperor City's situation. Just as this timing, the snow cloud Sky Shore had already arrived in the skies above Blue Profound Sect and started to descend slowly. Li Moying stood up and stretched out his arm towards Huang Yueli. "Leah, come." Huang Yueli obediently leaned over as he held herself into his arms, wrapping around her waist as he brought her out. The four guardians watched their departing backs as they were slightly dazed, each of them with complicated emotions flashing past their eyes. It was until the two's figures disappeared in their vision of sight when Kang Po-hun's sauce face revealed a sliver of profound look while his mouth broke out into laughter. "I'd not expected Grandmaster Huang actually really agreeing to get engaged to Sovereign. From their looks, it seems that their relationship shouldn't be too bad. Sovereign is finally not on a one-sided love track." Kang Ning-yu heard him and gave a cold humph as she took the lead to walk out. Kang Po-hun rubbed his nose as he followed suit. Snow Cloud Sky Ship directly descended onto the core region of the Blue Profound Sect, at Levitation Sword Palace. Luo Jiyun and the others were still on the skyship but were already stunned by the view below them so much that they couldn't say a single word. Blue Profound Sect's location was on the largest spiritual artery in the entire Soaring Heavens continent, where heaven and earth profound chi was at its strongest degree, around 5 times or more of normal circumstances. Especially for the core region Levitation Sword Palace, it reached almost 10 times of profound chi intensity. Intense profound chi formed into a light fog as it enveloped the skies above the Levitation Sword Palace. From above, it looked as though it was surrounded by clouds and mist. Under the fog, 100,000 high-grade flying swords hovered above the palace with the sword tip pointing upwards, forming into a sword formation, surrounding and protecting the palace rooms and pavilions. Frost-like sword edges under the ray of the sunlight glistened brightly as its cold murderous aura intimidated people's hearts. This kind of god-grade ancient sword formation wasn't something which the current array masters could lay out, but was passed down from generation to generation in Blue Profound Sect. Levitation Sword Palace was Soaring Heavens continent's genuine cultivation sacred land, and there wasn't a practitioner who didn't know of its name. But even if Luo Jiyun and the others had long read and understood from ancient manuals or legends of Levitation Sword Palace's situation, witnessing it for themselves still made them so stunned that they were totally immovable. Snow Cloud Sky Ship quickly landed safely as the flight of stairs descended. Li Moying led Huang Yueli as they walked down. In the front of Levitation Sword Palace were 2 rows of direct disciples who were dressed in their uniforms, and at the instant when they saw Li Moying, they all knelt down and prostrate onto the ground. "Welcome Sovereign back to the sect." Li Moying's eyes flashed past a strict gaze as he took a deep breath, and on that profound, aloof, handsome face of his, it revealed a slight stir. This sovereign has finally returned. Huang Yueli turned her head over and looked at that perfectly contoured side view infatuatedly, as she was struck in awe by that revered glare in his eyes. So many years had passed, and after experiencing 2 rounds of lifetimes, actually this man had never changed. It wasn't the first time she stood at this place, and it wasn't the first time she entered Levitation Sword Palace with this man. But it was until this moment she realized that every single time she returned back with him to this place, what that undulated emotions in her heart meant. The 2 of them walked past the crowd and slowly walked into Levitation Sword Palace. Li Moying embraced Huang Yueli's slender waist gently as he whispered, "Leah, I still have some sex affairs to handle, why not take a rest first? The room which you had been staying in that year, I've been preserving it for you. You can also listen on." When Huang Yueli heard that, she nodded and said, "All right, you go be busy with your work, I have something to settle as well." Li Moying was stunned. What matter? Huang Yueli turned her head back and pointed towards the entrance at the shadow guards and Luo Jiyun, who were acting very carefully as though they were country bumpkins who had just entered the city, and said laughingly, "Haven't you seen the few of them, all thoroughly shocked silly? It's better to explain some things to them carefully. After all, they are extremely loyal, and with blue profound sex resources, after careful nurture, they will have bright futures." Li Moying's gaze fell onto Luo Jiyun. Looking at his look, which shook in fear and trepidation, he couldn't help but found it amusing while shaking his head. "Sigh, really, then you'd better go. Later, when I'm done settling these matters, I'll send someone over to tell you when it's dinner time." Huang Yueli nodded as she waved her hand at him and then turned around and walked towards Luo Jiyun and the others. Li Moying bade her farewell with her eyes before leading the 4 great guardians and a few trusted managers who had just arrived into the main palace. The palace doors had just shut, and Li Moying abruptly turned back his head with a severe gaze as it swept past across every single person, lastly falling onto Kang Po Jun. This sovereign's return to blue profound sect meant that the plan had already succeeded. But this sovereign does not wish for Grandmaster Huang to know what had happened, hence, no one is allowed to spread the matter which happened 16 years ago, that happened in Levitation Sword Palace out. Everyone, control your own tongue, do you understand? Even if Grandmaster Huang were to come ask you on her own, you're not allowed to reveal a single word. Kang Po Jun's sweat soaked through the back of his clothes as he knew clearly that he had said the wrong thing earlier, which had thoroughly angered this sovereign. He hurriedly lowered his head. Yes, this subordinate understands and will also constrain everyone in the sect. Still slightly unresigned, Kang Ningyu's pale and stunning face appeared anxious from the uneasiness as she couldn't help but voiced out, "But, sovereign, you've done so much for Grandmaster Huang, why not?" Before she could even finish her words, Li Moying's frigid gaze shifted onto her. Kang Ningyu shivered, not daring to say a single word more as she silently lowered her head. Li Moying said icily, "This sovereign will only say it one more time, this matter, no one should talk about it. Those who violate this will be killed without any pardon." Everyone trembled upon hearing his words and immediately lowered their heads to accept the command. "We comply by sovereign's command." Kang Ningyu bit on her lips hard as she still felt unresigned in her heart, but she didn't dare to create any more trouble in front of Li Moying. Kang Po Yu also frowned slightly, but he had always been reserved in his thoughts, hence he didn't say out his thinking in front of everyone. Li Moying sensed his gaze and shot a warning glance towards him. Actually, he himself knew that paper was unable to wrap up fire, and Huang Yueli would find out about this sooner or later. But, if he could hide it from her for some time, he would hide it for as long as he could. In the empty ground in front of Levitation Sword Palace, Huang Yueli chased up to Luo Jiyun and the others quickly. "Junior brother Luo, brother Mo Yi, wait for me." Luo Jiyun saw her running over and was firstly slightly pleasantly surprised, but immediately following that, he appeared rather embarrassed. "Lil sister-in-law, this, Huang Yueli couldn't help but laughed as she said, "I know what you want to ask and I'm here to explain to you. But this is not a place that we can converse in, come over with me." She led the few of them into the rear palace with familiarity as she immodestly utilized the largest guest room, directing Levitation Sword Palace's serving maids to serve tea to them. Luo Jiyun was totally stunned from this scene. This was Levitation Sword Palace. She ordered the serving maids from the Levitation Sword Palace as though it was a matter of course. You can also listen on. Did she know what she was doing? Levitation Sword Palace's serving maids were all talented young ladies who were picked out from 10,000 candidates, and no matter if it was in terms of looks, innate talent, or ability, they were all of superior caliber. Quite a number of large powerhouses' direct disciples couldn't even be compared to an ordinary serving maid from Levitation Sword Palace. Just referring to those few who were ordered by Huang Yueli, their cultivations were at least 6th stage realm and above, whereas Huang Yueli herself was only at 5th stage realm 9th level. However, what made Luo Jiyun and the others even more surprised was that these serving maids really listened to whatever Huang Yueli instructed. Moreover, each and every one of them were exceptionally respectfully, totally not having the kind of arrogance which a Blue Profound sect disciple should have. Instead, they all treated Huang Yueli with respect and reverence. After the serving maids brought tea and snacks for them, Huang Yueli waved her hand and said, "That's all we need, you may leave now. Unless the sovereign is looking for me personally, otherwise don't come in to disturb us." The serving maids respectfully curtsied, "Yes, Saverigness." When Huang Yueli heard their greeting, her lips twitched as her heart cried out a gloomy sigh. She had not expected Li Moying's command to actually be conveyed throughout the sect so quickly. This man, he really was too tyrannical. She also knew that there was no use for her to correct these serving maids. No one dared to oppose Li Moying's commands, hence it could only be left like that. After she dismissed the serving maids, she turned back and saw Luo Jiyun and the few shadow guards all surrounding a small narrow corner, looking at her in shock and uneasiness. Huang Yueli smiled and said, "What's the matter? Haven't I asked you guys to sit down and drink some tea? Why are you guys all standing around?" The few of them exchanged glances and Luo Jiyun opened his mouth to ask, Lil sister-in-law, stop playing riddles with us. Quickly tell me what this is all about. Eldest senior brother and Blue Profound sect, what relationship do they have?" Huang Yueli thought about it for a moment and smiled. "Regarding this matter, it's indeed a little inconceivable when I talk about it, and there's a possibility that you guys will find it hard to believe, but what you've heard earlier are all true. Moying, he is indeed Blue Profound sect's sovereign." The few of them looked at each other in dismay because this kind of answer was something which they could not accept. Luo Jiyun was like a headless fly turning round and round on the original spot as he kept mumbling to himself, "How is this possible? How could this be possible? I must be dreaming, and in my dream even Lil sister-in-law is sprouting rubbish. Ah, who can pinch me?" Huang Yueli was utterly speechless as she shook her head and her right hand waved as she continuously shot out 3 bursts of profound energy. Furthermore, her moves were swift and the position which she struck out was especially tricky. Luo Jiyun was totally unprepared and was struck immediately. It hurt him so much that he directly jumped right up from the ground. "Ouch, ouch, ouch. So painful. Lil sister-in-law, I only asked you to pinch me once. Why did you hit me 3 times? Huang Yueli's lips curled up slightly. "I see that you seem to keep asking me to pinch you every other hour, so thought you're in need of being pinched. So I might as well pinch you a few more times to satisfy your needs. How is it? Are you satisfied enough? Do you still want to continue being pinched?" Luo Jiyun grimaced in pain and furiously shook his head. No need. "So are you finally awake? Or do you still think you're still dreaming? Still thinking that I'm spouting nonsense?" Huang Yueli asked again. Hearing that, Luo Jiyun didn't reply immediately but hesitated for a moment before opening his mouth to ask cautiously and solemnly, "Lil sister-in-law, eldest senior brother, surely he can't be Blue Profound sect sovereign, right? How could this be possible? Could he, you can also listen on." Looking at Luo Jiyun's extremely tangled look, Huang Yueli casually picked up a teacup and sent it to her lips as she asked curiously, "Could it be that?" Luo Jiyun suppressed his voice as he asked mysteriously, "Could it be that eldest senior brother is actually Sovereign Mu's illegitimate child?" PFFFFTTTTT. Huang Yueli had just drank a mouthful of tea and immediately sprayed it out. Moreover, it sprayed precisely onto Luo Jiyun's face, making that outstanding young lad turn into a disheveled drowned rat. Luo Jiun stood in a daze on his original spot as tea started dripping down from his hair, as he looked embarrassed and totally at a loss. Lil sister-in-law? Cough cough, cough cough cough. Huang Yueli herself choked and she coughed furiously for half a day before she finally got over it. Her lips kept on twitching as she gazed at Luo Jiun. How would you possibly think of it in this way? Who told you such nonsense? Luo Jiun said foolishly, No, it's not like that. Have I guessed wrongly? But everyone in the entire Soaring Heavens continent knows that Blue Profound Sect Sovereign is the continent's #1 top exponent Mu Chengying, whereas eldest senior brother is just a practitioner from South Sky region. No matter how genius he is, surely he could not directly become the sovereign, right? Even if Sovereign Mu is really like what the rumors said, that he had gone into chi deviation while in closed-door cultivation, but no matter what, it shouldn't be eldest senior brother's turn, right? So the only logical explanation, that would be, don't tell me it's wrong. Huang Yueli rolled her eyes towards the sky as she mumbled softly, if he dares to have an illegitimate child outside and even dare to bring him back to Blue Profound Sect to be the successor of the sovereign seat. Isn't he afraid that I will murder him? Sister-in-law? What did you say? Luo Jiun didn't hear what she said as he hurried over to ask her. Huang Yueli gave a light cough and said, things are not what you imagined. But it might be even more unimaginable than what you think. It's a long story, so take a seat, all of you. After the few of them were seated, Huang Yueli then toughly told him about the scenario about her and Li Moying's rebirth. In order to clear everyone's suspicions, she gave them a rather detailed picture, from the time she and Li Moying met each other to the time when they discovered each other's identity, as well as the process where Li Moying slowly regaining his memory, everything included. Hearing her completed story, Luo Jiun and the others seemed as though they were struck by lightning and couldn't regain their senses back for more than half a day. It took quite a while later when Luo Jiun opened his eyes wide as he asked in disbelief, so to speak, eldest senior brother he's actually the reincarnation of Mu Chengying? And Lil sister-in-law, you are the #1 armament master in Soaring Heavens continent, #1 beauty, peerless top exponent, that renowned mythical Flame Palace's young palace lord Huang Yueli? Huang Yueli chuckled, this flattery isn't bad at all, I like it. Luo Jiun totally didn't notice what she was saying as he was still in a state of dizziness while muttering to himself. No wonder eldest senior brother's innate talent is so heaven-defying, and no wonder he's so knowledgeable, and for no rhyme or reason being able to master so many heaven-grade and god-grade cultivation methods and profound skills when Celestial Light Sect obviously didn't had those ancient inheritancy. And same for Lil sister-in-law, not only is her innate talent in cultivation outstanding, her armament refining skills are so stunning, as though there was nothing that she didn't know, heavens, so the truth is actually like this. This is just too unimaginable. Mo Yi and the others' state of mind weren't any better than his. You can also listen on. This news was just too shocking and no one was able to accept it in the short duration of time. Huang Yueli waited for a moment but still saw their dazed looks as she helplessly shook her head. Alright, things are more or less like this, but we require you to keep this in top secrecy. In Blue Profound Sect, only the 4 great guardians, Levitation Sword Palace's trusted aid and attendants, as well as a few managers know about it. The rest, including Blue Profound Sect's elders or the others, do not know about this matter, hence no matter under what circumstances, remember not to divulge the information. Everyone shivered as they immediately voiced out in agreement. Luo Jiun asked, Lil sister-in-law, why can't eldest senior brother announce his own identity publicly? Could there be any dangers? Huang Yueli remained silent for a moment and continued, 15 to 16 years had passed and Sky Emperor City's circumstances are different from then. Before your eldest senior brother resumes to his peak ability, it's best that we remain low-key for now. Saying that, she recalled something, that's right, your eldest senior brother mentioned this earlier to let the manager make arrangements for you guys. Brother Mo Yi and the others will be treated as inner disciples while junior brother Luo you will become Blue Profound Sect's direct disciple. Should I say congratulations? Ria, really? Heavens, something so great is happening. Luo Jiun was so excited that he almost fainted. Happiness came too suddenly. Just before today, he thought that it was a difficult feat for him to become a servant of the 7 sacred lands, not to mention officially joining the sect to become a disciple of the 7 sacred lands. But now, he abruptly transformed, without even needing to take the assessment, to become the number 1 sacred land's direct disciple. This was the status which so many peerless talents in Sky Emperor City had tried means and ways, fighting head over heels but were still unable to obtain. Mo Yi and the others were extremely excited as well. Although it was only the status of an inner disciple, but based on their innate talent, they would not even be able to get into any of the large powerhouses in Sky Emperor City based on their own abilities, and to gain this status was akin to running into some unexpected luck. Huang Yueli smiled and said, "But your potential and innate talents as compared to Blue Profound Sect's ordinary disciples have quite a huge distance. So you must value this chance and work hard to cultivate." The few of them hurriedly bowed their bodies and chorused in unison, "Third Miss, please be assured. Your subordinate will not make Master disappointed." Even if they already knew Huang Yueli and Li Moying's real identities, but they still weren't able to change their appellations towards them. Huang Yueli nodded her head and wanted to continue saying something. Suddenly there was a knocking sound coming from the outside of the door. "Grandmaster Huang, Sovereign sent someone over to pass a message, to invite you to head over to the front hall to have dinner with him." The serving maid respectfully reported from outside the door. Huang Yueli then realized that the sky had already darkened. She had spent quite an amount of time here. Huang Yueli stretched her limbs as she stood up. "All right then, I'm going to accompany Moying now. Just relax and stay on in Blue Profound Sec. No matter if it's terms of cultivation or life, just look for me if you face any difficulties. Rest assured, there'd be plenty of places where we will need you." Saying that, she waved her hand and left in anticipation. She was in a hurry to go meet Li Moying, so she totally didn't wait for the serving maid to lead the way as she found her way familiarly to the front hall. She had been to Levitation Sword Palace numerous times in her past life and was extremely familiar with this place. However, just as she was passing by the right side of the front hall's decorative carved patterned corridor, suddenly someone called out to her from behind her. You can also listen on. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.